What does it take for a friendship, one built on the kind of secrets and laughter you only share in the dead of night, to curdle into a meticulously planned murder? It's a question that feels like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood script, a dark fantasy. But for one 16-year-old girl, this nightmare became a brutal, unthinkable reality. She was an honor student, a loyal friend, and the only child who was the absolute center of her parents' world. She had no idea that the two people she trusted most were about to lead her into the darkness and never let her come back. This is the story of Skylar Neese, a vibrant teenager whose life was stolen by her two best friends. They lured her from her home for a joyride, but only two of them would return. And the chilling reason for their betrayal would stay buried for months, hidden behind a wall of calculated lies and fake fears that fooled an entire town. This isn't just a story about a crime. It's a story about the terrifying darkness that can hide behind the smiling faces of the people we call our friends.
In the small town of Star City, West Virginia, Skylar Neese, Sheila Eddy, and Rachel Schoaf were, for all intents and purposes, inseparable. Skylar and Sheila had been friends since they were kids, and Rachel joined their tight-knit world in high school. They were a classic teenage trio, navigating school, social media, and the intense, all-consuming bonds of adolescent friendship. To the outside world, and especially to Skylar's loving parents, Dave and Mary, they were just three normal girls. Sheila, in particular, was so close to the family she was like a second daughter, walking into their apartment without even knocking. Skylar was a bright, responsible kid, an honor roll student who worked part-time at Wendy's. Her parents describe her as happy and loving, the kind of daughter who ended every single night with a cheerful, "Love you, Mom. Love you, Dad." She was their only child. Their world revolved around her. Like any teenager, she sometimes pushed her boundaries, but as her father later insisted, she was a good kid who was planning on coming home that night. He pointed to the small details that screamed this was supposed to be a short adventure, not a final goodbye. She left her window open and didn't take her phone charger. But beneath the surface of their smiling selfies, a toxic undercurrent was beginning to flow. The typical tensions of teenage life started to escalate into something darker. Their social media, once a highlight reel of their bond, started to show cracks, cryptic posts that hinted at a conflict brewing just out of sight. Skylar's own diary and tweets documented a growing rift, a quiet souring of the friendship that had once defined her entire life.
On July 5th, 2012, Skylar came home from her shift at Wendy's. A little after midnight, surveillance footage from her apartment complex captured the moment that would seal her fate. The grainy video shows her climbing out of her bedroom window and slipping into a waiting car. It looked like typical teenage behavior, sneaking out for a bit of fun. But she was sneaking out with the two people she trusted most in the world. Inside that car were Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf, and they had come prepared, but not for a joyride. In the trunk, they had stashed a killer's toolkit: kitchen knives, paper towels, bleach, cleaning supplies, a shovel, and a change of clothes for each of them. This wasn't a spontaneous eruption of violence. It was a premeditated execution, planned with a chilling meticulousness. They drove across the state line into a remote, wooded area in Pennsylvania, a spot where the three of them used to hang out and smoke. There, under the cover of total darkness, they all got out of the car. On cue, Sheila and Rachel told Skylar they'd forgotten a lighter. As Skylar turned her back to get one from the car, the two friends exchanged a look. They counted to 3, and then they attacked. They stabbed their best friend, over and over again. Skylar, ambushed and betrayed, was strong. She fought back, slashing at Rachel's ankle and leaving a wound that would later become a key piece of evidence. But she was no match for two attackers. As she lay dying, she managed to ask the one question that hung in the air: why? It was a question her friends never answered as they continued their frenzied assault. Their plan was to bury her with the shovel they'd brought, but the ground was too hard, too rocky. So instead, they dragged her body to the edge of the woods and concealed it with rocks and branches. Then they changed their clothes, got back in the car, and drove away, leaving their best friend in a shallow, makeshift grave.
The level of deception it takes to carry out a plan like that is almost impossible to comprehend. How does a friendship decay to that point? And more importantly, how could two teenage girls maintain a facade of normalcy after committing such a brutal act? Before we get into the investigation and the shocking confession that blew this case wide open, I want to hear from you. What do you think is the most common reason for friendships to turn toxic? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're finding this story as compelling as I am, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into complex cases. When Dave and Mary Neese woke up on July 6th to find their daughter's bed empty, they were worried, but they assumed she would be home soon. As hours turned into days, that worry turned into pure panic. Because Skylar was initially classified as a runaway, a critical Amber Alert was never issued. This failure in the system would later inspire the passage of Skylar's Law in West Virginia, a change ensuring immediate alerts for all missing children believed to be in danger. In the weeks and months that followed, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf played the part of devastated best friends with horrifying conviction. They called and texted Skylar's phone, leaving desperate voicemails. Sheila was a constant presence at the Neese home, comforting Skylar's parents and even helping them hand out missing person flyers. Dave Neese would later recall worrying about the two girls, telling police to leave them alone because he truly believed they were suffering just as much as he was. But investigators were suspicious. During questioning, both girls showed classic signs of deception: fidgeting, avoiding eye contact. Their stories didn't quite line up. Sheila eventually admitted to picking Skylar up that night, but claimed they dropped her off an hour later, just down the street from her apartment. It was a lie, but with no body and no confession, the police had nothing to go on. All the while, Sheila kept up a chilling performance on social media, tweeting things like, "Rest easy, Skylar. You'll always be my best friend. I miss you more than you could ever know." The break in the case came 6 months after Skylar vanished. The weight of the secret had become too much for Rachel Schoaf. On January 3rd, 2013, after suffering a complete mental breakdown, Rachel confessed everything. She told investigators the entire gruesome story: the plan, the attack, and the location of the body. When they asked her for the motive, the reason for all of this, her answer was as simple as it was horrifying. They just didn't like her anymore. She then led police to the cold, remote spot in Pennsylvania where they had left their friend.
Rachel Schoaf's confession shattered the community and the Neese family. The two girls they had trusted, the ones who had cried with them, were the monsters responsible for their daughter's death. On May 1st, 2013, Rachel Schoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. In exchange for her confession and testimony against Sheila, she was sentenced to 30 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 10 years. Sheila Eddy, confronted with her friend's confession and the discovery of Skylar's blood in her car, finally dropped the act. On January 24, 2014, she pleaded guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison, with parole eligibility after 15 years. Unlike Rachel, Sheila has never publicly expressed any remorse. The question of why haunted everyone. That first reason, that they just didn't want to be friends anymore, felt sickeningly hollow. For years, there has been widespread public speculation about a deeper motive, that Sheila and Rachel were in a secret, intimate relationship and feared Skylar would expose them. However, the only motive ever entered into the official record was the one Rachel gave police. They just didn't want to be her friend. Rachel Schoaf was denied parole in May 2023 and will have future opportunities to go before the board. Sheila Eddy will become eligible for her first parole hearing in 2029. Skylar's parents, Dave and Mary, have tirelessly attended these hearings, fighting to keep their daughter's killers behind bars. They've channeled their grief into activism, becoming instrumental in passing Skylar's Law and speaking at schools and prisons, sharing Skylar's story to prevent another tragedy like it.
The murder of Skylar Neese is a brutal reminder that evil doesn't always come from the shadows. Sometimes it comes from the people standing right next to us, smiling for a picture.
It's a story of how teenage jealousy and secrets can fester into something monstrous. Two girls, consumed by their own dark bond, decided their friend's life was a price worth paying to protect it. They didn't just kill Skylar, they betrayed her in the most profound way imaginable. Skylar's legacy, however, is not just one of tragedy. It lives on in Skylar's law, a piece of legislation born from her parents' unimaginable pain that now helps protect other children. And it lives on in the memory of a bright, vibrant girl whose life was cut short. Her father, Dave Neese, perhaps said it best when speaking about the killers. Dangerous animals belong in cages. The story of Skylar Neese is a harrowing, cautionary tale about the darkness that can lie just beneath the surface of friendship, and the devastating consequences of a trust that is not just broken, but shattered with unimaginable violence.